Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Washington, D.C., it's Quintessential Listening, Poetry Online Radio. Now, here's your host, Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram.
Good evening, everyone. This is Michael Anthony Ingram, and welcome to the program. Tonight, my very special guest is Brian Donnell James. Brian, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Brian is not only a poet, he's a novelist as well as a public speaker, and he's the 125th guest on the program. So I'm really, really pleased to have him with us tonight. All right, Brian, are we ready?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right. I'd like to begin by asking you a question. What is poetry?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Poetry to me is art that is made out of depression, or any emotion really. Could be joy. When we don't have answers, words help to soothe. They're like a blanket of comfort, And for me, I think that is what poetry represents.
All right. Why is it important, my friend?
It's important, I think, because it is connection. You hear people spend their lives talking about, my soulmate. Well, guess what? We're all soulmates. All you need to do is find a spirit that you can vibe with,
Right.
And connection is important. It helps you to, forget about things like race and, treating people because they're different from you, or they don't sound like you, or they don't come from the areas where you come from, So for me, that's what words and specifically, poetry do. It connects us as a human spirit, as God's spirit. Say.
All right. When you think about your body of work, what are some of the predominant themes?
Well, people ask me that all the time, and my answer is always, the resiliency of women. In my life, women have always led the way. They've always been the leaders. They've always kept the family together. Made sure you had a hot plate, and they survive hard times. They are the backbone of our as African American, in my humble opinion. They are the background, and they are the only reason that we made it through these 400 years.
Oh my God! Please share a poem.
Yes, I'm going to go right into an older poem that I really enjoy reading. It's called Sweet Tones, Somber Tones. Sweet tones, somber tones in the night sky. See, me all alone with this here old horn as my only ally. But I'm feeling good, feeling jazzy, playing up a storm. People hearing my sound now, they're coming in to get warm. Head swings slowly, sort of side to side. Finger snapping, and I'm filled with pride, 'cause I'm entertaining my people in the chocolate city. I got my eye on that dark-skinned girl looking pretty. Fever running wild, and this old woman say, go ahead, play it, child. Ain't no worry, just dancing and fun. It wasn't nothing like this when the night begun. Yeah, these my peoples jam-packing the place. You see, I'm proud of my culture and I'm proud of my race, and I'm giving them back something for what they gave me. And I'm loving every minute, playing this old horn real jazzy. Short hair, cornrows, scarves, and braids, going out into the cold night as all the fun fades. Sweet tones, somber tones in the night sky, me all alone with this here old horn as my only ally. Thank you.
All right, that was nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, I like that.
Thank you so
As
much.
you know, this is a call-in show, and the call-in number is 646-787-1631. And actually, Brian, we have a caller.
Oh, excellent.
All right, let's take this person and bring them into it so they can ask you a question.
Absolutely.
All right. The number is 470. The first three numbers are 599. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. And yourself?
I'm doing well.
Good. You have a question for Brian?
I don't. Probably later on in the call, but not at the moment.
All right, then. Well, thank you for calling, all right? All right. All right, Brian. Later on, he'll have a question for you.
Well,
I've got a question for
waiting.
you.
Sure.
All right. How does a poem begin with you or for you, with an idea, a form, or an image?
You know, all three. You know,
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Sometimes I might hear a word. Like one of the poems I'm going to read tonight is called Tillage of Earth. And I just like the word tillage, you know. And you can make a poem from it, or you can imagine, you know, or you can just see something. And, of course, the image will, you know, come to mind. But basically, for me, it comes together like a crossword puzzle in my mind. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen A Beautiful Mind, but when the guy sees all the images and things, and exactly. And that's how it is. You know, you put the words together, and I try to be what I call elegantly simple because I want to connect to as many people as I can. So I try to be as elegant but as beautiful as I can.
Well, please share another piece of your work.
Sure. The name of this piece is called Quiet Men. Men of a certain age do not speak much. They are the ones that do not cry. They are the gardeners, the plumbers, the electricians of no training. They are the hard, rigid ones of concrete hands, coarsened and callous from laying brick and rigid labor, rising every morning to face an uncertain day, every day. They are the undaunted heroes. Hair of salt and pepper, gray or white, they dress plainly and modestly. They are the wearers of bargain bin tennis shoes. They are the wearers of black socks and sandals at cookouts. They never retire work boots. They have survived turbulent times, fighting wars abroad and being killed at home, having the strength to remain silent or walk away when someone calls them boy. They are the overlooked. They are the slighted. They are the makers of hard decisions and black and white visions. They hold within their power scales of good and evil, given too much praise and too much blame. Their greatness taken for granted, their disappointments hurting severely, and their sins rippling through families for generations. And now I find myself somewhere between elder and ancestor, like the grandfathers, fathers, and uncles before me, found only in old photographs in basements or on the cover of dusted-off obituaries in attics. Staring back from these images of the past, seemingly wondering what will be said of us. Thank you.
You know, this being Black History Month, that's a
Yes.
powerful piece.
Thank you.
Extremely powerful. And it's
Yes.
so important to remember so that we never forget.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that piece. Now,
Indeed.
as you think about your experiences, what was an early experience where you learned that poetic language had power?
That's a very good question with a very simple and immature answer. I wrote a girl a poem, and she liked it.
Hey, that's the best way it's supposed to be.
And that's you know that's how it all began. And you know poetry, and I used to do rap music, and and things of this nature. And I saw how I was able to move the crowd. And, here I am, 100 pounds, and 80 of that was glasses, skinny kid, big glasses. But I saw that I was able to move the crowd with my words, and it just gave me a feeling of power.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Let's take a brief break, and we'll be right back.
Yes, sir.
I'm here with Brian Donnell James, the one and only Brian Donnell James. Question for you, Brian.
Yes, sir.
All right. All great writers have great writing influences. Who are some of yours, and what makes them great in your eyes?
Wow, that's a very, very good question. I like so many writers. Gwendolyn Brooks, Pablo Neruda, Rita Dove, of course, Nikki Giovanni, from whom I have a letter of encouragement that she responded to. Me publishing my first little chat book, I gathered up the gumption to send it to my favorite poet, and she was so kind enough to write me a letter of encouragement back, which I still have all these years.
Oh, wow.
And I was recently at an event at the Library of Congress that I was able to show her on my phone that I still had it. Of course, I'm sure she didn't remember it, but she was happy to hear such a nice story. I like Lord Byron. She walks in beauty like the night. Just a fantastic piece of his. Just so many writers. I can't name them all.
All right. Now, where do you hail from? Poets hail from all over the world. Where do you hail from?
I was born and raised in Alexandria, Virginia, right by the waterfront. And for the last, 20 years, I'm living in Prince William County out in Manassas, first Battle of the Civil War location.
Right. Well, let me ask this question about living in Manassas. How does that impact your work in any way? What influence in terms of where you live?
It definitely does, because this area is such it's rich. You have a Spanish community, you have a white community, a black community, and Asian community, all and others, all mixed together. And then it influenced me greatly because I walked away from writing for a while after the rap career didn't work out. I became an accountant.
All right.
And, I did my job, but, I wasn't terribly, happy because I wasn't writing. And I ran into a man named John Dutton in a wonderful writing group called Spilled Ink Virginia. And we met over at the legendary Girani Coffee House out here in Manassas, owned by Ken Mormon. And there I was able to meet with other wonderful writers and just shape my sound and my writing ability.
All right. Please share another poem.
Absolutely. In keeping with the Black History Month theme, this one is called Recollections of the South. She was to me a single drop of water, brushed along the dry, cracked lips of a tired laborer. She became to me a heavy rain, densely veiled in mist. There was no vision in her storm. She inspired me with her loveliness in dawns and twilights of violet, where birds tweet and crows caw. She ignited within me the anger of raging rivers, leaving broken trees ripped and uprooted by her chaos wayside. Yes, I recall, this is how I loved her. She was to me a single seed planted in famine, deep within the rich black soil of the Delta. She preached a ministry of kindness and cruelty, and brought to me the sustenance of honey and the sourness of vinegar. She held summer captive in her blush, her lips, her kiss, so I could never settle in a season or time. And this love, born in the death of a rebel's cry, upon black backs cracked in fields, branded and bonded with iron, no longer has grasped its seams on souls that are thirsty, longing for peace and serenity. But she leaves behind only faith and tears to quench windpipes covered in thorns, and ashes are still faintly smoldering, making her promises hard to trust. Yet still she lives in my core, so I yield to her beauty. Yes, this is how I cared. She became to me a foregone forever, lost in the handshakes and nods from strangers in small towns. She became to me lifetimes lost, with the loyalty and betrayal of the stars and bars of Dixie. Come, sit a spell. She will lull you to sleep and seduce you. She will become one with you. Yes, I recall, this is how I loved her. Thank you. And by her, I mean the South.
Wow. That was exquisite.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
A perfect piece of poetry. Perfect.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Really
Thank
like
you very much.
You know, all poets have several words that come up over and over again in their work. Words or sentences that they just can't help but use. What are three of your absolute favorite words to use?
Well, I don't know about word, but subject matter.
Okay.
Again, it would have to be women. It would have to be women. I would have to say connection. I love to connect with people. And then inspiration. I think those would be the three words that you will find in my work or subject matters.
All right, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Please share another poem.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is a piece also keeping in tune with the theme. It's called A Tillage of Earth for George Floyd. A knee taken and blood spills with the tillage of earth. For tobacco to reign or in cotton croplands bear no difference to a knee taken upon a football field by a man wearing God's number upon his chest. Both feel the lash. Both actions done to quench the passion and the thirst that the promise of equality surely doth yield. A kneel taken in prayer for a nation that protests too much change and too much progress. So we, a godly people, sing heart songs heard only in spirit and kneel to beg for empathy where our pleas fall yet again upon ears that are closed. So a knee upon a neck ends a life. On urban farmlands, the new fields of slaughter, and blood spills with the tillage of earth, yet our hope is never disposed. Thank you.
You know, Brian, there's so much happening in the world. So much happening. What do you see as being the role of a poet in modern-day society?
Well, you know what? This is a blessing. You know, to be a poet, to be an artist, to be a musician. God gives you this talent, and when in turbulent times we're called upon to soothe. Recently, I lost a great aunt, Mrs. Bernadine Price, and then I lost her sister, Miss Gwendolyn Kennedy. For Mrs. Price services, I was called upon to read a poem, and I was blessed to come up with a poem called God's Poetry, meaning that our life, when God reads our heart, it should read like poetry, you know. And too many people out there, if God reads it hard, it sounds like gangster rap. Okay. but she was, yeah, there's too many of us out there, right? But she was a beautiful woman. She reminded me of my grandmother, Carolyn James. Just beautiful people, and always had a hot plate for you. And I was just so honored to do that service. So poets are called upon. You have to be ready to perform, and humble enough to accept these challenges and just do the very best you can. I saw the young lady at the inauguration. Now she's going to be performing at the Super Bowl. The world calls upon poets, and she did I don't mean to curse, but she did a hell of a job.
Oh yeah.
So, and you never know when you're going to get that call. She's 22. I'm sure she wasn't expecting that.
I didn't know that she was a twin. She's a twin.
I didn't know. You educated me there. But what I do know is she was.
I could be wrong, but that's what I heard. She's a twin.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that I heard it was going to be a 22-year-old person. I was like, okay, 22. I don't know, And but then I pulled up some of her work, and within 4 lines, I didn't even hear the rest of the poem. I just, she got this. She's gonna, as we say, she's gonna tear it up, and she did exactly that. So I'm so proud of her, and all youth, youth poets out there.
Wow. Share another poem. Never stop writing. Share another poem. I'm really interested. I'm fascinated by your work. Please share another.
Sure. This is sort of keeping with the theme. It's like deviation. It's called Dream Number 7. 7 to me represents God. And so that is the basis for that. Dream Number 7. How can I walk in dreams and feel the warmth of the sun on black skin? How can I feel the wind gather in my lungs and within my bones? And I am running in this wind, chasing the sound of your voice through the landscapes of my mind. Say my name tenderly again. I want to carry you with me. We two here in a dream. We are one. We are kindred, to where my actions become your consequence and your pain becomes my penance. Let me absorb your wounds and hurt. Let me give you absolution. Let me decipher your unhappiness. On this and other worlds, emotionally, lovingly, and these fleeting moments of a dream, say my name sweetly again. I want to carry you with me. In peace. Thank you.
Wow. Writers and poets write for a myriad of reasons. Some write primarily to speak a message to their audience. Others write because to stay silent is not an option. Why do you write, Brian?
Another great question. I'm going to be brutally honest with you.
Yeah, please, I like that.
I write because it helps me to battle, depression.
Okay.
And when I say that, there's a stigma to that. But I'm free of all of that. I'm free of all that.
Yes.
See, I stood at my father's. My father passed. And I was about 7 years old. I looked at that his casket, and I believe a poet was born. In those moments. And so I just it's confusing to explain because I've always known that I've been immensely blessed within my life. So if I'm blessed, how can I be depressed? But you can't. You can't. And so the poetry helped me to make art out of that. And how great is that? What a gift the Creator gives us. So yeah, I guess that would be the answer to that question. It helps me to combat anxiety and depression, which is, I think, that is something that a lot of poets out there, if not all, feel.
Yes. Well, being a poet myself, I deal with those issues as well, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You know,
All
May
right.
is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and I put on programs during that month to talk about the relationship between poetry and mental health. I'd like to invite you to come back. In
Oh,
May
you
as
know I would
well,
love
share
that.
some of your work. All right.
Oh, I
All
would
right.
definitely love that.
Yes, we work in conjunction with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and I've been put on the program for the last couple of years now. So I want you to come back, and we can really talk about how poetry affects us and how it helps us. All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's take a brief break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
All right, we are back. I am with Brian Donnell James. Please share another poem.
Absolutely. I'm going to go into a one called Billiards Player. Billiards Player. The aged neon sign flashes pool hall outside of a meager dwelling place that has evolved to become a haven for us chocolate men on Saturday nights. The super slick savages who call themselves hustlers scout prey, seek out those who feel invincible and steal farmers, railroad, and factory workers' pay. They catch 'em on the pool tables and smoothly chant, rack 'em. They use the dice games in back alleys or that knuckle game to straight jack 'em. That girl Tezra show is fine. With that almond butter skin, I'd love to spend some time. I'd pitch woo right now if she wasn't the Reverend's daughter. They say that gal so sweet, you can drink her bath water. But she here to see Roscoe, over there drinking brandy. But his soul is enslaved to the white nose candy. She funds his degradation, craving to test her womanhood. Skinny and frail, loving on him ain't gonna ever be good. Who, me? I'm the brother in the back room, cap tipped to the side, slightly hanging over my dark brown eyes. I grew up here in this shanty town, and I see it dying. And there's a restlessness in me, 'cause I see I'm dying. So tonight I'm jumping on a train, the midnight run. I ain't saying goodbye to none of one. Let them drink and smoke and live life recklessly. Through the mist of the pool hall, the sounds of the balls crackling endlessly pound my senses and sets my heart aflame. 8 ball in a corner pocket. Damn, that's game. Thank you.
I mean, you've got the kind of voice that you could just listen to forever.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
What is the relationship between your speaking voice and your written voice, if there is a relationship?
Most definitely. You know, any voice that you have, whether it's, soft or low, you have to learn to work with it. And for me, I have an okay speaking voice. And for me, that, if I have anxiety, that's going to do 50% of the work. So all I have to do is just go to the podium and read from there. And I try to make sure that the words stand on their own. Because if the words can stand on their own, and then if I match my voice with it, now we're cooking. We got something to work with. So a voice is definitely very, very important.
All right. You use the word cooking, and that brings up my next question. To you, what are some of the most prevalent ingredients that go into this concoction we call a poem? What goes into it?
Emotion. If you're not feeling it, how I'm gonna feel it. If you don't believe it, how you expect me to believe it? I would say truth, but I'm going to narrow that down and say your truth because, of course, we're poets, so we make things up.
Yes. Yes.
But,
I do it all the time. Yeah.
but it's your job to make me believe. Like some of the pieces that I've been reading tonight are period pieces. I'm in my mid-40s. I was born in the 70s. But some of my pieces that can easily slip into the 30s and the 40s, 50s.
Yes, they could.
You see, so that's my job to transport you there. It's like a time machine. That's why I like, Lord Byron. Again, I got to go back to him, because it's like obviously hundreds of years ago he lived. But when I read She Walks in Beauty, it was like I was transported right there. I felt everything he felt. And, that's our job.
Now, do you know that particular piece by heart, by Lord Byron?
A little bit, but not completely.
Share what you know. Share what you know. I want to
hear. On the spot. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and in her eyes, thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. And there's two more verses, but
all right. That was all right.
That was going back. I haven't seen that poem since I was like 16, so that's about 30 years ago.
That was fantastic. Does writing energize or exhaust you?
Both.
Tell me more.
Another great question. I don't mean to. Again, the respect I have for women. I want to be very careful when I say this. But as a poet, how you when you're impregnated with a poem, okay, it's in your being, right? It's in your spirit, right? You get energized. You get excited. And almost, I would say almost, in the same way that a woman gives birth, when you and probably just as painful in the spirit, not physically, but in the spirit, it's very it's gratifying when you can do that, and then you're loving all over that baby. You know what I mean? So you get so you get energized from that, and then what happens after that? You're exhausted. Again, in reference of a woman is very tired after giving babies. My wife, she bore 4 kids, so and I was there.
Very nice.
Yes, I'm blessed. Yeah, I'm giving a shout out. Have a good shout out to my wife, Miss Tara Perlette James.
All right, congratulations.
James. Thank you. So that'd be my answer to that.
Share another poem.
Oh, okay. This one is called Grandma. It's a very interesting piece because I wrote the piece, and I have people from different ethnic groups coming to me, and they'd say to me, "Oh, that's my grandma," sometimes in tears. And I hate arrogance, so I'm not being arrogant. I'm just telling you exactly how it is and how the Creator is. That's why I say we're all connected. They will come to me and they said, "That's my grandma," and they will be Asian, they will be Caucasian, they will be Hispanic, And you know what I say? I say, yeah, it sure is. I said, that's your grandma, because it's not what I meant. It's what it meant to them. What it means to the reader. So I'm going to get right into the piece. And if it's your grandma, then God bless you. Okay,
right.
Grandma. I still hear her prayers whispered upon the night winds. I still smell her hands scented with the olive oils that she used to braid the kinkiest of hair. Little girls squirmed between her legs, but she held firm and adorned their crowns with beads. For Sunday was approaching, and she say, one cannot go before the Lord any kind of way. And she say, God speaks through the thunder of storms. So when the rains rolled in, everything was halted within a dark house. and only the cracks and pops of her old bones were heard as she used candlelight to kneel upon unstable and well-worn knees, to pray and cry, "Yes, Lord," while in conversation with the Creator. And the young ones remained silent in the knowledge that it is only she that has earned the right to praise and reaffirm his glory in these moments. In the closets, where the burnt orange housecoat still hangs, shag slippers align the floors. Dime store cat glasses and framed ancestors rest upon pine wood dressers. Silk scarves used to hide gray hair, rollers and wigs are placed on the top shelves, and there are fragrant perfumes besides rose-laden lotions reserved for special times. Sadly, there were no great men in her life. I do not recall them like I recall her, for they rose and fell like tides, but her waters were always calm. Her loving heart well crafted despite painful past memories. She say, "Do not sit on the laps of men, and do not let them lead you into the fields." For mistrusts and misdeeds, she grew to forgive, but she did not forget them. Her tears can be hidden, but still heard and felt in moments of solitude. Wisdom from tougher times was to be passed down, so there was nothing to be wasted. So as pig feet and lima beans roasted in the cast iron oven, we gather sugar cane and cinnamon for the tomato pudding. Fresh poke salad and bitter greens, collard greens, were plucked from the garden and made to taste savory with smoked meats and lemon pepper. There be fried liver and wild onions and stews of every kind, and to sustain us in winters, the multicolored quilts of our Cherokee kin kept us warm. Her house and acres were owned, bought with decades of back-breaking suffrage and toil, all so that there would be a haven for the children to gather and then scatter in laughter like dandelion seeds blown across sun-beaten yards. The front porch grants the sanctuary of white wicker chairs, used to escape the southern heat that was always felt, even under the moon. And in this serenity, she smiles at me and then slowly rocks into eternity. But I still hear her prayers whispered upon the night winds, and I still smell her hands scented in olive oils for which she used to braid the kinkiest of hair. Thank you.
It's funny, I was looking at a picture of my grandmother today, and she hailed from South Carolina, and I could see her in your poem.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really could. I could see her.
That's the Creator's gift.
Nice.
That's the Creator's gift. Every time I share that poem, people come to me off stage, and they say the exact same thing. No matter what race, no matter what choices in life, we all got that grandma.
We got that grandma. It's true.
Exactly.
You know, some poets claim that a poem is like a living creature. Once it's out of their hands, there's not much else they can do to correct it or improve it, while others edit meticulously, not leaving much from the original draft form. What is your take on it? Are you an editor, or once it's gone, it's gone?
Both. And I will elaborate.
Tell me.
Sometimes I'll write a poem, like when I got the award from the United Nations for my poetry win for the poem Testimony. I wrote in 5 minutes. And the reason why I wrote it in 5 minutes is because I lived the piece, you see. And I had discussed it with my oldest boy, who the piece was about. And we had discussed it over the years. So I wrote it in 5 minutes. And then after some time, I got the call that I had won first place. So a United Nations win was just an incredible blessing for me.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
I was just so thankful. Then there are other poems like the one that I just read, the billiards player. I wrote that poem when I was 14. It had got published a few times, but I've been rewriting the piece for 30 years. So it's been published. So I'm both. Sometimes I'll be decisive, and then other times I'll revisit a poem and say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to add a word here or there. and fine tune it.
You know, I didn't ask if you came from a literary background or not, and what did you learn about writing growing up?
I mean, I came from a loving background, and actually, yes, my mother, as a single mother after the death of my father, and my uncles and my aunts and my grandmother, they raised me. They were all readers, they would read the little novels and things that you could buy from the stores, and even more serious literature. But also, I had heard word that my father was a writer. He was a poet, before he had passed
really?
at such a young age.
Wow.
Yes. So I guess in my own way, I saw that as a connection, to him as well. So that also, was an inspiration and one of the reasons why I started with this art.
Share another poem, my friend.
Okay. So, keeping with the theme, we're going to go to a piece called Black Ballerina. It's one of the older pieces, and I just love to read it. So here we go, Black Ballerina. With worn down black shoes and a faded pink dress, danced Katrina, the ballerina above all the rest, a young lady of color, eyes of coal. She grants a smile and invigorates my soul, twirling and leaping higher and higher, adrenaline flowing to an undying fire, but no sweat upon my Katrina, just the moonlight and mine eyes upon thee, the ballerina for all the world to see, capturing, entrancing. Such a lovely sight is my love. She stands black and beautiful, surpassing this starlit night. She smiled at me once more and gracefully took her bow. But never shall I forget the warmth and the happiness I felt just now, and forevermore she shall be my black ballerina. Thank you.
Wow. Black ballerina. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The following question is subjective, but I'd like you to take a stab at it anyway, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right. What makes a poem good?
Connection.
You talked about connection. Tell us more about
sir.
the connection.
Connection. It's everything. Put people, like we say, put people on Front Street. But don't call me to because I speak at universities and other private agencies, events and things, and we have poets that are more renowned, and they come around those who don't have as much experience. But then, quite often you bore me with big words that do not connect to the audience. I hate arrogance. I hate arrogance. And some people forget that if you've been blessed to have a certain amount of success, you can't forget where you come from, and you can never forget the connection. That's rule number one as a poet. I have to feel you. And then for me, when I write pieces, I don't want people to forget. They might not remember the words, but as Maya Angelou, I believe, said, they remember how you feel, how that piece made them feel, and that's what I try to do. That's why connection is so important to me.
Well, I'm connecting with you, and I'd like you to share another poem. Please share another poem.
Sure. This is a sort of similar to the theme, but it's a love poem. It's called Blind, and I love to read it as well. Blind. Yet even when I close my eyes and fall into the abstract art ablaze in color against my inner blackness, your image beckons through, an outline etched in a vivid shade. In stellar points of light I see you, like moonbeams on the dark seas of my mind. And on this shoreline of eternity, I stand on notice. On the abyss of an endless void, ebb and flow within my pulse, you are the pattern of my heartbeat. And when I close my eyes, I find myself almost wishing to be blind, if only to touch you in new dimensions and make love to you in new depths. Go deeper than thy flesh. I want to know thy essence, where marrow and bone are replaced by stardust and cosmos, where your soul is free. I want to know you there, my love. And yes, I would choose to remain blind, forever cast in ebony, save for your likeness, save for your image. This would be the better blessing. Indeed, my heaven. Thank you.
What? Oh, wow, you're incredible, man. What are you trying to communicate with your art?
Comfort.
Okay.
I want you to be comforted. I want you to be soothed. You know, I want to relieve anxiety. You know, I want you to feel relaxed, and I want to have a pleasant conversation. You know,
all right,
with my work between me and the reader. I want you to feel as if we've just had a conversation, and I want to leave it in your spirit.
Well, on that note, let's take a brief break, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back. Brian, please share another poem.
Yes. The name of this piece is called In the Loving. In the Loving. It is in your loving. It is in your healing, my confidant. It is in the decades of tenderness where you are never absent from my life, and never absent is the yearning. It is in the kissing of my eyelids when I am weary, when you think I am at rest. When I am cold, you cuddle close. You are the solar warming within my rib. And when universal blackness lays upon us, yes, when the quilt of night keeps us huddled beneath, exposed and fragile, I have no choice but to explore your hills and caverns and arise with the morning dew, replenished and reborn. Thank you.
What does it mean to you to be a black male poet?
You know what? I mean, I am vehemently protective of being a black American.
All right.
However, you know, there's a higher sense of our spirit and a lower sense of our spirit, right?
Okay.
So skin is clay, right? That protects something. And what that protects is God's spirit that resides within all of us. So yes, I'm a proud black poet, but I'm a human being. Okay?
Yes.
And I'm a child of God. And don't misconstrue. I'm not a terribly religious person. I'm more of a spiritual
all right,
person.
No problem.
Fact is fact. You know, I've studied every religion that there is upon the death of my father, trying to have some understanding, you know. And let me tell you something. Every stop I made, every name I called the Creator, He always blessed me. So for me, there's not just one way. There can't be. He blessed me when I called Him Allah. He blessed me when I called Him Jesus. He blessed me. Every name you could use, I've always been blessed. All we have to do is just quiet things down and see the miracles, the daily miracles that we have in our lives every day.
You know, it's funny. I, too, went on a quest to find out what suffering meant. Why do people suffer? And I looked at different religions to find out the definition of suffering. And I came to the conclusion that if you can understand that suffering is going to be part of your existence, whether big or small, and you can accept that, then you'll be at peace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything in the universe is positive and negative. Everything.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You're a bad man.
Oh, no, brother, I'm not. No, you know, I always tell my sons, I tell my sons, if I share something with you, a piece of advice, it's not because I'm an expert, I know it all. It is because I've got my butt kicked, you know.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I got beat up a few times. That's how you learn.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Again,
you know,
next
month. Well, I was going to say next month is Women's History Month, and I plan to ask the same question: what does it mean to be a woman poet? And I can see a piece of that being that I'm human first, then a woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not a woman, but I would imagine, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Share another poem, my friend.
You know what, dear brother, that's creative right there. That was a perfect segue into my next piece.
All right,
this
perfect.
Piece is called Guardian. It's a very tender poem for me. It took me 10 years to write, to capture the words, yes, that I feel in protection of young women and children specifically. All children, you know, girls and boys. But it's called Guardian. Cover thy breast to protect your heart. Cross thy legs to protect your modesty. These are things told to little girls. The butterflies, scared to leave their husk, buds upon their chests bring unwanted attention from boys and men lurking to spoil from abroad and from within, to shudder with the turn of a doorknob, to shake under covers pulled tightly. It is ungodly for a child not to feel safe in a home space, to brace for the unwanted kiss, to brace for the clenched fist. These are things learnt by little girls, and this trauma can stunt womanhood. So you draw back when I extend my hand. It is a hurting thing not to be trusted. I love you. I love you. I swear. Let me be your guardian. I love you. I love you. I swear. Thank you.
Powerful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wow. How active are you on social media? And how does that fit into your writing?
Recently, I'm been very, very active. Updating stuff on my website, BrianDonnellJames.com. I'm on Facebook, and I do a variety of different shows. That's the great thing about during this time, during the pandemic, you can virtually be anywhere. Last week I was in New York, Miami, Chicago, Canada. Every open mic that will call and invite me, I'm there. And
all right.
This is the Renaissance, if you will.
Yeah. It's funny. The pandemic may have caused a lot of A lot of chaos. But one thing that it did open, though, was the use of Zoom and other programs like that that brought people together who would have never gotten together. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There was some good and the bad. Some good and the bad. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to give you this time to share any of your works that you like.
Well, since I only have 5 minutes left, I'm going to share a very, once again, a very personal piece to me. It's about my grandson, excuse me, and he has beginning stages of autism. So I wrote a poem about how I was feeling, and I've shared this on open mics and variety of different shows and things, and it always gets a positive response because there are a lot of people who have children or family members who have autism. So
Yes.
I'm going to read this poem. It's called Toys. Toys for Omar. He aligns his cars in straight lines and stacks his blocks by 6 in perfect columns. He jumps up and down with enthusiasm, for his autism speaks in action. At the moment, he prefers the color green and is reluctant to noise, so he sets his hands upon his ears and disappears to solitude, while I am left to await his return. But because I love him so, I have learnt to enter a room quietly, to sit and await his attention. Just like his toys, I remain silent for his acknowledgement. He surveys me, and in time grants a smile and then a sudden warm hug. He giggles within my arms, cocks his head, and stares as if to say, "Don't worry, Grandpa, I am in control," and then runs down the hall with glee. Yes, we are all his toys. My heart burns with joy, literally burns with joy, a spectrum of emotion within, aching and hurting with happiness, with hope. I shed a tear of joy for this lovely boy, my little genius. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That's very touching.
Thank you so much.
And very real. Very real. Very real.
Most
very real.
definitely. Most definitely.
What is next for you creatively, Brian?
Well, it's funny you asked me that because I was on the open mic just last night, and I was asked the same question, and I said, well, there are no millionaire poets. So I'm going to have to start writing novels. But I'm doing novels, but I'm doing them in a very poetic manner, Again, I never want to lose. Some novels and things, it could be kind of cold. I always want to keep them warm, to the spirit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so those are the things that I will be doing. I'll be joining Dr. Hiram LaRue, I believe it's next week at Penn State University for a closed event.
Oh, wow.
Upon some of the projects that he does with Poetry X Hunger, to fight hunger. Dr. LaRue, Hiram, has been a blessing to me and many other poets in the area, across the country, but definitely in the DMV area as well. So those are the things that I will be doing. And I think at the end of the month, I will be with Prince William, Poet Laureate, Miss Kim, and then speaking for a Black History Month for the county.
Yeah.
And she's the best haiku writer in the country. Well,
she's going to be on the show in March. So.
Oh, that is awesome! Your readers are in for a treat. So also, Yes. Also, I do programs with Miss the Alexandria Poet Laureate, Miss Kaniki Jakarta. She's also awesome.
Yes.
She's probably been on the show too. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm surrounded by a bunch of beautiful people, a bunch of beautiful souls.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your gift with us tonight. It's the highlight of my week.
Oh,
and
thank
you.
you.
Welcome back. Welcome back anytime. Anytime you want to share anything, just say, Michael, can I come on the air? And I'll say yes.
Well, I sincerely appreciate that, and thanks for everybody coming out and supporting me, and everybody, please have a lovely evening and stay blessed.
Yes. Take care, everybody. Until next week, be safe out there. Good night.
You have just listened to the Quintessential Listening Poetry Online Radio Podcast with your host, Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. And make sure to catch our next episode.